Super patch. Number 3, scale object, useful object in max. And all scale does, it's super simple. It's basically doing a cross multiply. You're giving it, here's a value that I know is within this range, and convert it to be in this other range, right? So take a number I'm giving you that's between 0 and 1, and make it between 0 and 100, right? So here's a number between 0 and 255, make it between 0 and 127. Simple transforming of data, right? So I've got my scale here, and the format for it is a scale, number, 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 number. So I've got 4 values. And the order here, I've got in the comment here, the first value is the low input, this is the high input, and then the low output and the high output. So what I'm saying is, I'm going to give you a number that I know is going to be between 0 and 127. Make it between 0 and 1. So if I give this a 0, I'm going to get a 0. If I give it a 127, I'm going to get a 1. If I give it a 64, I'm going to get a roughly 0.5. Okay, so it's that's all it does. This becomes very useful in Max because a lot of the different data types we work with have ranges that they like, and we want to do something else, right? So, for instance, those RGB values in our jitter matrix are often 0 to 255. That grayscale value might be 0 to 255. We want to turn that into volume. Our volume is usually 0 to 1, okay? So let's scale it. We might have MIDI. MIDI works 0 to 127. Again, so we can take our 0 to 255, make it 0 to 127. Take our 0 to 127, make it 0 to 1. So this is similar to what we were doing last week with motion detection, where I was taking this and dividing by 255. That happened to work because I knew that this was going to be at most 255 and I wanted to go to 0 to 1. But let's say I wanted you to go from 0 to 255 to 0 to 127. That would be a different math thing. It would be divided by 2. But I could also just use the scale object because it can be easier to think about than trying to figure out what am I dividing this range by to get to there. Okay, so super useful object. Just as another like visual for this, right? Maybe I've got a gain object in here, and the gain, if I look at my inspector view, I can see some things about this. So I know the gain has 158 steps. So I could say, what if I want to do scale? Let me just make a new one. Scale 0 to 1, 0 to 158. Right, put that in there. I've got my float number coming in here, and now my very low float number can change this gain object. So that's a way, for instance, I could take that output from my motion detection and drive a gain object for volume or something.
So does it matter what order you put that in, like the scale? It looks like the top one is your scale, the numbers, and then you put the value?
Yes, so the order does matter.
Oh.
So for this one, I'm going from a large range, 0 to 127, to a small range.
Oh.
Whereas this one, I'm doing the opposite. I'm going from a small range to a large range. Now, if I exceed the scale, right, so if I put 255 in here, that's beyond 127. It's doing a linear scale, so it'll interpolate that value, right? So it's going to give me 2-ish, because 255 is twice 127. So I can keep going, and it will keep giving me the same linear scale that it was doing before.